Hello, my name is Lee Presser. This is my show. I speak frequently to very interesting people. Some of these conversations are so exciting, so intellectually stimulating, I thought others might like to listen in. This is the reason we started recording Conversation with Lee Presser.
Welcome to Conversation with Lee Presser. In the 2014 edition of U.S. News & World Report list of best colleges, Southern Illinois University Edwardsville was recognized in its top 50 Midwest universities. And for the 11th consecutive year, they placed SIUE among the top 10 public universities in its Best Regional Universities Midwest category, which grant master's degrees. Our guest today is Dr. John Navin, a member of the faculty of Southern Illinois University, where he currently serves as the Interim Dean of the School of Business. He has held that appointment since July of 2013. Previously, he was chair and professor in the Department of Economics and Finance. Dr. Navin is a former Village of Glen Carbon trustee and currently chairs their Zoning Board of Appeals. Dr. John Navin, welcome to Conversation.
Thank you very much.
So, how does one get to be an interim dean?
I think one's last man standing. That's how that works.
I've known a lot, by the way, and just full disclosure, I am a graduate of SIU and of the School of Business and have an MBA from the very program that you probably chair right now.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yes.
It's nice to see our alums in the area. So
yeah, that was back in the days when MBAs were kind of like, what? What is that?
We've got over 20,000 MBAs, or 20,000 alums out of the School of Business at SIUE. So
that many?
That many. I think there are almost 100,000 from SIUE total.
Yeah, I still get the bulletins that get mailed out to alumni. So.
Well, that's good.
Yeah. And I read them.
You're supposed to. We try really hard to keep in contact with our alums. So if there's anybody out there that we've missed, my contact information is up on the screen at some point. Make sure you let me know, and we'll be happy to make sure that you're connected to the School of Business. We're always happy to hear from our alums.
Good, good. Now, okay, so everybody knows that SIU has a School of Business, or anybody who knows anything about SIU. What's the reason, from your perspective as an educator, for somebody to come and get a business education at this point? Let's say that you're talking to the parents of a junior or senior in high school right now.
Sure.
What would you say to them?
Well, I mean, the business school in particular, one of the things we talk about is it's a great quality education, which provides a lot of job opportunities. And it doesn't even have to be an immediate transition to the workforce. We have a number of students that decide they want to go on to grad school after they get their undergraduate degree. But as a parent who has a number of kids that are in college, I can tell you that one of the things we're most concerned with is making that investment in higher education and making sure that our students get a return to that education. And at SIUE, especially in the School of Business, I guarantee you they get a great return on their education. And so, they want a career where there are nice job opportunity, there's lots of possibilities, and I think that we meet that, head on.
I believe that most people recognize that in the United States, since the crash in 2008, things have been tough. Those who have graduated from your program since that time, how have they fared in the market?
We've done
the
all
job
right.
market.
We've done all right. I mean, what you see is you don't see the business majors as a whole really taking a crash. You see a little switch in where students are, majoring. We saw a big move from finance over to accounting as we moved out of 2008. I was going to say,
move from finance.
Because what you saw was with the Sarbanes-Oxley and some of the reform acts that passed after 2008, there was all of a sudden this increase in demand for auditors and compliance checks. The demand for accountants, skyrocketed, and students are smart. They're going to follow where the jobs are. We've seen a huge, though, rebound in the finance industry, and if you look at job projections from the U.S. Department of Labor, you'll see that financial planning and the financial services industry is going to be one of the huge growth industries over the next 10 years, and we've already, our majors have already rebounded in that area. So, although we saw a slight decline, business enrollments tend to be cyclical like the economy, and then they have bounced back actually already. We're doing real well.
I'd like to just take a little diversion, and we're going to come back to what you were just talking about, but would you briefly explain what Sarbanes-Oxley is for people who have heard that term but don't really know? All they know is that there's arguments about it.
Well, basically Sarbanes-Oxley was the federal government's response to the financial crisis of 2008. It's a bill which basically increased compliance requirements, reporting requirements, attempted to have a little bit more transparency in how some of the larger banks and even the smaller local banks operated. And basically you can just think of it as a financial regulations bill.
Now,
excuse me.
I know that the attempt was a good one, but the way it was written, did it turn out as well as people had hoped?
Well, I don't know that I can answer that question. I think it really depends on your perspective. You know, any of us that work in an industry that becomes more and more regulated always question why it's necessary, because we're sure that we're doing a good job. From a consumer standpoint, clearly there were issues in the financial services industry in terms of reporting requirements. I think it would be hard for anyone to argue that there weren't some things taking place that probably weren't totally above board. I think that some of those were addressed by Sarbanes-Oxley, but like any piece of legislation, you know, it tends to be there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all. It's an evolving process, and so what we find out is, you know, when you implement something, it doesn't always work exactly as you plan, and there are changes and tweaks that we've gone through, you know, over the last 6 years. And so, has it made us better off? I think people would say, in terms of reporting, we probably have more information about the financial services industry than we had prior to 2008, and many of us would argue that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay, good. Now, coming back to to your main job at SIU, I was reading some stuff about business schools, and there was something about whether business schools are, or I should say, a graduate degree for a woman is a good thing or a bad thing, whether they're wasting their time or not. That just getting into business and maybe learning on their own, spending time learning a foreign language for 2 years instead of getting an MBA would be advantageous. Any comment on that? And I know that's a tough subject. It's
a loaded question.
Just talking about it, I mean, all of a sudden, you're some sort of sexist. But I did read about this, and I thought, well, the arguments were interesting. So
I'm not sure what the argument is. I think for most individuals, regardless of man or woman, the whole idea behind a graduate degree is to really take you beyond the introductory skill set and tool set that you learn as an undergraduate. For a lot of positions in companies, they do require an advanced degree, a master's degree. And so some may argue that if your area of specialization is entrepreneurship, or you want to do some stuff in international business, I mean, there's certainly plenty of opportunities for students with, undergraduate degrees to go as far as they want to go. And I'm not sure it makes any difference, honestly, whether you're a man or a woman. I think it really depends on what you want your career path to be.
Well, that's what I actually felt when I was reading this article. It seemed kind of trite to me that the author was a female, and I was like, what the differentiation here between graduate degree for a man, graduate degree for a woman? Why is it better to learn like Chinese or something than it is to go on and get an advanced degree? And I don't know, there seems to be a lot of silly arguments that are going on.
Well, I'm just not sure you're comparing apples to apples. Your career opportunities, if you decide to do a foreign language, I'm not sure that meshes 100% with, I've decided to take German as opposed to getting an MBA. I don't know that that's, a direct comparison. I think they open up different doors.
I think the author was trying to say, hey, if you're even thinking about going into business for yourself, don't waste your time with an advanced degree. Just go and start your business.
Well, I'm just not sure I agree with that.
Well, I wouldn't think that
I would say, even as an individual who's worked with a number of individuals that have started their own business, I think many of us are very creative. We're very good at coming up with ideas. But I think many of us don't realize everything that's involved with setting up your own business. Just thinking about hiring employees and tax laws and you know, it's really complicated. It's once you get past the, you know, I'm gonna do it out of my garage, when you move into your own business establishment, the laws and rules that you have to change and you know, how to go about getting financing and understanding what income statements are, balance sheets. You know, most of us just can't do that by second nature. It does require some professional training. And even if it's not a formal degree, you know, there are opportunities if you want to be an entrepreneur. We have a small business development center on campus, and their specialty is to help individuals make that transition, to understand, you know, the ins and outs of starting your own business. And, you know, just go ahead and doing it on your own. It sounds great, but eventually you're going to need some help. And so, you know, we're there to help you with that as well.
Maybe you just answered this question, but let me ask it anyways. In the School of Business program, either at the undergraduate or at the graduate level, are we training people to be in business for themselves, or are we training them to be working for an existing business and fit into that organization?
Well, we provide opportunities for both. I mean, obviously, you know, one of our responsibilities, for example, if you're going into the financial services industry, a lot of people will start out by working for someone else, or a Wells Fargo or an Edward Jones. And so, you know, we provide them with the common set of tools that you're going to have if you go into the corporate world. Now, we also have specialization in entrepreneurship. We have a student entrepreneurial organization. We have a small business development center. So, you know, depending on what your focus is, you can get training either way.
Mm-hmm. So have you had people who have gone from your school or even started businesses while they're at your school?
Absolutely.
Who have made, you know, a success of it?
Sure. You know, some of our more successful alums may have started out in business, but a lot of them ended up being entrepreneurs. In fact, our first MBA grad, Larry Heitz, who lives out in Arizona, basically has made his career out of being an entrepreneur. And he has the distinction of being MBA #1. So, and Larry comes back every spring, as do a number of our alums, and help us with opportunities to get our students involved in creative product development. We run a contest called the Other 40. And what we do in the Other 40 is it's basically a business pitch competition for undergraduate students at the university. And it's not limited to business students. We have students from all across the university. Last year we had students from dental, we've had students from pharmacy, from all across the university, and they come and they pitch their idea, and we go through a selection process. We help them with business plans, and when we finally select a winner, then we help them move on to the next stages of really developing and marketing that business. Mm-hmm. We're also involved in conjunction with University Park and PNC Foundation and Bank in a Metro East business plan competition, where we're actually looking outside the university to the community to help, you know, entrepreneurs that aren't undergraduate students develop their businesses. Mm-hmm. You know, entrepreneurship and innovation is probably one of the fastest growing areas in the business world right now.
As it should be, because that's where small businesses hire employees more than, I mean, there's more employees, I guess, in small businesses across the United States than there are in major businesses.
Well, I would believe that. I mean, I don't know the figures exactly, but there's certainly a growth area. I mean, we're seeing more people now that, you know, have a lot more avenues to get their products out there through the availability of information and electronic communication. You know, you don't have to take an ad out in the newspaper, you don't have to go sell door to door anymore. You can sit in your living room and post some pictures to various websites, and it makes it, you know,
and
a
boom,
lot more easier to get things out there. And click and pay.
Exactly.
So, I mean, a lot of opportunity.
Now, you mentioned the business park. Is the School of Business a part of that, or is that like a separate entity in the university?
It is a separate entity, essentially, from the university. The University Research Park is a separate 501c3 private, you know, organization. It is chartered through the university, however, so I guess you would call it a quasi-university operation. The director of University Park does work at the university, and then it has its own separate foundation board, and I serve on the foundation board for University Park.
I remember when they first started that, I think James Pennekamp had something to do with that.
Jim is the director right now.
Yeah,
Yep.
and how's it going there? I know it was a slow start at first.
I think it comes and goes. You know, I don't think it's reached its full potential yet. I think there's still space available. I think we could still stand to have a few more buildings. You know, we have a lot of companies that transition into University Park and get their start, and then they move elsewhere. But St. Louis is really becoming a hotbed for innovation. You know, they have a lot of the incubators down in the St. Louis area. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're really hoping to kind of tag on with some of that and really help to develop University Park into its full potential.
People hear the term incubator on the local news. Perhaps
Mm-hmm.
they don't understand what that means. Can you explain to them?
I mean, really, if you think about what an incubator is, it is exactly developing an idea, if you think of, from scratch, mm-hmm. and providing individuals with office space, a lot of time with angel investors to help provide them with capital, provide them with information on management structure, and again, a lot of the entrepreneurial skills that we talk about on campus. And the idea is to bring the innovators to a location where you can develop some synergies with other individuals that are working on new and exciting projects.
And of these people who are in incubators, how many of them are actually, rewarded at the end with a functioning business as opposed to one that just, and then fails?
I think like anything else, I don't know what the statistics are, but I would say the majority of individuals for one reason or another probably wouldn't be what you would consider remarkably successful millionaires. They're not going to be the McDonald's of the world or the Google or the Twitter.
But enough to buy a house, live a decent life, have a few employees?
I would think so. I have to, where my position is right now, I don't do a lot of hands-on work with the individuals that are in the incubators, and so I don't, I'm not really that versed in it, to be honest with you.
Well, coming back to SIU School of Business, then, what are your hopes and dreams for the future for your department?
Well, I mean, I think
Or your school, actually, it's not a department.
Well, it's I think what we all want to see is the university grow. It's such a tremendous asset for this region. I mean, we are really lucky to have in the Metro East and the St. Louis region a lot of higher education opportunities. It's a great resource for the community. I guess what I would like to see is a strengthening of our relationship with the Edwardsville, Glen, Carbon, Belleville, kind of the the 7-county region over here. It's always nice to see those ties strengthened. I think we provide a lot of opportunities for our students. We'd like to see, everybody wants to see enrollment growth. We want to see the university grow and prosper, be able to provide opportunities for our students, not just locally and regionally, but internationally as well. I would like to see a growth in our international programs. I think increased access to individuals that want to come back to school, kind of the non-traditional. If you think about it, it's almost going, full circle. I think for many of us when we started here, SIU really was, a draw for a lot of non-traditional students. We had a lot of students that, were working during the day and taking classes at night and trying to raise families, and we've gone through, we transitioned where we still have those individuals, but we really went to a residential campus where traditional, 18 to 22-year-old students, and we still have those students. That population is still growing, but we're also starting to see a resurgence in demand for non-traditional, students, individuals that want to come back and complete a degree that they didn't finish before, or just increase their job skills and expand their knowledge base. And so, I think really my vision or my hope for the school is just that we continue to grow and serve the region. That's really what we want to do.
Now, of course, we focused earlier on the MBA, Master's in Business Administration. What other advanced degrees does your school offer?
So we actually have 5 master's programs at SIUE in the School of Business. We have a master's degree in economics and finance. We have a master's degree in accountancy, a master's degree in computer management information systems, the MBA, which we focused on, and we also have our master's in marketing research. So there are a lot of opportunities for students to pick the field that they want to work in or the area that they're interested in terms of master's degrees, and totally increase their skill base.
And are there enough classes at times when people who are working full-time to be able to get their classes in, I guess the evenings, weekends?
Our graduate programs are focused at night. Most of our students are not full-time graduate students. Most of them have jobs, they're employed, so they're coming back to school, especially in the MBA program.
So they take like 1 or 2 classes?
Right, they'll take 2 classes a week, for example, and so they can get it done in 12 months if they, depending on what their schedule allows. And we try and make it as convenient as we can. We do classes 1 night a week, which are split between seat time, and then you can supplement that with online learning as well. We used to run a traditional weekend class where we would do Friday night, Saturday, Sunday for 2.5 weekends, and then students would be able to just come to class on the weekend. We've moved that now to online courses to provide them with even more flexibility. We like to have students, especially in the MBA program, that have work experience because it just provides a richer learning environment. I think as someone who's taught in the MBA program for a long time, that having students who have been in the workforce really helps to, when they can bring their experiences to class and share with the others, I think it's just a more meaningful education experience.
It would seem that those who have work experience or military experience, they've
Sure.
grown up, that they're much more focused, aren't they, on education than they would have been when they come from high school?
Sure, it tends to be a much more conscious decision. A lot of us just made that transition from, well, I've graduated from high school, it's time for me to go to college. We didn't have families, we didn't have job responsibilities. The
Still
decision,
in party mode.
Well, to some extent, I think that's definitely true. I think, when you're working full-time, that commitment to go back to school is one that you really have to weigh. It's, there are only so many hours in the day, and I have a lot of respect for people who are able to work from 8 to 5 and then, go to class, spend their time in class, and then go do their homework, work on their projects with other students and still manage to balance a home life as well. I mean, it takes a lot of dedication.
What sort of financial commitment are we talking about to get an advanced degree?
Oh, if you're going to ask me numbers, I don't even know exactly what the total cost is. I mean, I can tell you when you look at the cost for getting an advanced degree in the region, SIU is clearly one of the most affordable, and it's definitely, in terms of return on investment, I would say the best.
I believe I heard that people from Missouri can come to SIUE at the in-state rate as opposed to paying the higher out-of-state rate.
And we've just expanded, we started last year to expand the in-state tuition rate to basically the states that are all contiguous to Illinois. So
is that right?
Kentucky residents on the Illinois,
Indiana
and Wisconsin people can move down and take classes here.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
moving, we're in our last 5 minutes, or less than 5 minutes. It goes by fast here. Just a little bit about you. I mentioned that you had been a trustee of Glen Carbon.
I loved it. It was great. Yeah. Glen Carbon's a great village.
It's a nice town, isn't it? I mean, it's really developed quite a bit over the last 20, 30 years.
It has, and I think that the village did a nice job of planning, where things were going to go, and keeping, retail in one area and housing developments, and so I think it's really, it's a great place to live. I'm happy that I was able to raise my kids there, and it's kind of nice to know that I had a little bit to do with watching the village grow.
And part of a great school system, too.
You bet.
The Edwardsville School District is, well, you tell me, how do you rate that as an educator?
Oh, I mean, you know, we're always happy to get students from District 7, and as a parent who's put a number of children through District 7, I think it's, you know, my kids have been very successful, and I know that when they have gone on to higher education, they've definitely been prepared. And, you know, they've got wonderful teachers, spend a lot of time, and of course, you know, they've got great athletic programs.
And it's been very stable for a number of years, hasn't it?
Sure has.
Under the leadership of Dr. Hightower.
Yep, it's been great.
What is a zoning board of appeals? I mentioned that you're chairman of that.
Oh, it's, you know, it's one of those things where if somebody decides that they want to put a swimming pool in their backyard and they don't quite have 10 feet for a setback, which is what our rules require, they have to, you know, they have to go to us and ask us to basically allow them to bend the rules. That's
please.
You know,
my wife wants the swimming pool.
It's a wonderful, you know, it's a wonderful job. It still keeps my toes in the water in the village. I still know what's going on, but it's not. It doesn't require the intense time commitment of being a trustee. Mm-hmm. So it's great.
So, what's next for you?
Who knows?
Yeah.
You know,
but you're the long termer. You're not planning on leaving SIU.
I've been here. I've been here 24 years, so.
You've seen a lot of changes at SIU. I mean,
you bet.
Earlier you were talking about, you know, in the old days. I don't think people who are young now don't recognize that at one time SIU was just a commuter campus. That was it. There was nobody. There was no campus housing at all.
There was Tower Lake, which is now Cougar Village, when I started. So I've seen all of the residential housing on campus that's been built. Just look at the expansions of the buildings. You look at the Vidalabine Center, the engineering building, the new science building. We've renovated so many of the buildings on campus. I mean, the transformation has just been tremendous. You know, it's been really great. It's like watching a child grow up. It's really a neat experience.
And there's room for, I mean, that's one of the largest physical campuses in the United States. So there's plenty of room for growth there.
Plenty of room. All we need is somebody to donate a few $100 million, and we
there you
can,
go.
You know,
and I'll bet as a dean that might be part of your job, is to go around and
you bet
talk about that.
So now that I know that you're alum, we'll be having a conversation as soon as this is over.
Well, I want to thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and just spend you know, a few minutes here with us to talk to, you know, potential parents of students to come and be part of your organization.
It's my pleasure, and I would just remind anybody, if you need any more information, please don't hesitate to contact us. We're always happy to help. And even if it's not the business school, you know, we're all about SIUE. So
thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Nice talking to you.
I've been speaking with Dr. John Navin. He is the Interim Dean of the School of Business, Southern Illinois University. You parents, you might want to check that out for your kids. This is going to be uploaded to YouTube, so you'll have an opportunity to show it to other people. Thanks. Bye.